Hey guys. All right. So I've seen a lot of people, do tier list on a bunch of random Destiny things. And today I kind of wanted to do my own tier list on every single bit of Destiny expansions and seasons and the story related to them and kind of rank my own opinions on how I feel the narrative and story was for each of the expansions and seasons. So while a lot of people will rank these based off of the overall and the gameplay, the gunplay, and like what the actual expansion has brought, I am actually going to do these based off of story and the narrative, the lore behind all of it. So if I believe it has good lore, the higher it ranks, etc. And we're starting from Destiny 1 and we're ending on Renegades, which is the current one. Of course, Lawless isn't here, of course, Shadow Order isn't here, so I'm not going to rank that yet because not quite here yet, but I might revisit this in the future after the Edge of Fate or after the Fate saga is over. So we're going to start with Destiny 1. Destiny 1, I remember, I know a lot of people were like disappointed because the story had to be restarted shortly before launch. And if you know the story of the what has kind of developed with Destiny 1 and what kind of occurred with Destiny 1, you know that a lot of the story, original concepts and stories were scrapped and that Destiny kind of changed into becoming what it is today. And Destiny 1 kind of started all of this. And from a narrative standpoint, it was very confusing. It was very new. It was very interesting. And there wasn't really a whole lot explained. And there wasn't really a whole lot like to explore beyond reading a bunch of Grimoire and lore cards. But yet, I still think there was plenty of lore and story to be found if you were looking for it. But I don't think it was like the greatest in that regards. So I would put Destiny 1 probably in C because it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good. I definitely think that Destiny 1 had it needed to cook. And story wise, it was new. It had an interesting concept. It brought people in, and it was the beginning. It literally like introduced us to what a guardian is. It introduced us to the traveler, to the enemies of the darkness. It brought us to various planets and places, and it started all of this. And so I think definitely a middle of the ground C. I would put this in B, but you don't really have time to explain why I don't have time to explain, so moving on. Dark Below gave us Crota. It gave us more information about the Hive. It gave us Eris. It built upon what Destiny 1 kind of what the vanilla and base game um brought us, and it gave us a little bit more story, and so much to the point where they just made Crota, or like the Dark Below, a part of the main campaign pretty much. I would probably put Dark Below in C as well, and I would probably put it above Destiny 1 in terms of story because it gave us a villain, like a face. Like, it gave us the face of a villain. And because it gave us a true face, a true villain to go after, I feel like that makes it a little bit better than D1, base D1, because we had someone we were hunting down, someone we were learning about, and someone we were chasing. With that being said, I think House of Wolves would actually be in B then, because House of Wolves gave us so much more lore, so much more story. It gave us like more stuff with the Reef. It gave us Queen Mara, the Awoken, and it kind of expanded upon what was brought to us already. And I think that was and during this time. Now, of course, this was years and years and years ago, so I don't fully remember like all of the events of Destiny 1, but I can try to do my best to recall from memory and from, you know, my lore knowledge uh what occurred during this. I definitely think House of Wolves deserved definitely a pretty middle, maybe low B, maybe low B. Like I would say, I would definitely say it's above Dark Below. But remember, this is lore. This is lore, like all of the lore, Grimoire, like that was brought with it, the story, the characters that were like a part of it. I mean, Varix was really cool. Like I kid you not, Varix was one of my favorite characters for a while, and just Skolas and just the House of Wolves. And I think this was like one of the first times we like really got delved deep into the actual like clans of the Fallen. Like we like this was the first time I think like the clans were kind of like pushed into the front and center of the houses, and we like learned what a Kell was. And you know, I think prior to that most people didn't really know what a Kell was or really know much about the Elixir kind of structure or even what an Elixir was at the time. I think definitely House of Wolves brought a lot of that. Again, could be wrong, but again, this is just what I'm remembering. And if it is different, let me know. But I'm probably going to keep this in B. Taken King is S. No doubt about it. Narratively, Taken King is S. It is literally the one of the best stories that Destiny has ever seen. It brought us new supers. It brought us new lore about the supers. It brought us a lot of characters interacting. It gave us some amazing story moments. It brought us Oryx, who was an amazing villain, an amazing character who we still learn about to this day and talk about to this day, and has brought a major impact into the Destiny universe. It brought us the Taken. Oh, it brought us what were they called? The not the Sand Eaters, because it is the isn't the Sand Eaters. They brought us oh, just so much lore, and the Dreadnought and the lore with the Dreadnought. Brought like it expanded upon the sword logic, the the Hive. We had to delve deeper into the origins of the Hive, the Books of Sorrow, um, and just following like it brought us a lot of interesting meat. And I'm doing my best to try and remember as much as I can about Taken King. But yeah, I know I feel like Taken King deserves an S. I would go back and replay Taken King. In fact, I have replayed Taken King a couple times on all three characters, and Taken King is just a blast to play through, and I really like it. I forget what this is because I don't remember the name. I know this is Age of Triumph, but I don't think this brought like new story. So I'm gonna put this in F for story wise. Gameplay and content wise, that can be ranked elsewhere. I'm not really going to. I would also put Age of Triumph in F for that reason because it didn't really bring much story or narrative. I could be wrong. Um, unless you want to count like, but I wouldn't really count like event story in that. I would count event story a part of the actual expansion. So like SRL and stuff would probably be like Taken King, Rise of Iron, etc. Speaking of, we're moving on to Rise of Iron, and I would actually put Rise of Iron in A, not S, not B, but A, and I would probably put it in a high A because Rise of Iron was good. I liked Rise of Iron's story. I really love Warlords and Iron Lords. But I also think that Rise of Iron, like, one thing that I really didn't like was just how little, like, of Siva we really, like. Siva is cool, but I also think Siva fanboys are annoying. Like, I'm not sorry, sorry, not sorry in that sense. Um, I know so many people want to see Siva return, and I think Siva was a cool villain, but I also think Rise of Iron was really kind of a side story. It was an episode. If like like Echo's Heresy Revenant, like Rise of Iron was the Destiny 1 episode. It was a side piece that didn't really progress the main story too much. It was like we were focusing on light and darkness, and all of a sudden there was this nanotechnology and the Siva, and then Rasputin's involved, and all this, and then like, oh, the Iron Lords. We get to learn more about Lord Saladin and just delve deeper than that. And I still think it's very cool, but it didn't really progress the main story in that regards. But I still think it brought a lot of lore. It brought a lot of story, and I like just being named the Young Wolf and being an honorary Iron Lord is amazing. And Lord Saladin is such a cool character, and I think that there's a lot of the Iron Lords who can still explore in the story as well, and Warlords. I would love to see more about the Dark Ages and the Age of Warlords. It would be amazing to see them. Destiny 2, vanilla based Destiny 2. Oh, yeah. So, this is the territory where I'm going to be starting to remember more, because this is where I was more conscious of Destiny and I was more like active and in love with Destiny at this point in time. Destiny 2 would definitely be. Oh man, so I'm gonna judge this based off of not just Red War, but also Leviathan and the side missions, the secrets, the strikes. I'm gonna have to put Destiny 2 slightly above House of Wolves and B, because I think the Red War story wise was very interesting and very cool. I definitely think it was better than Destiny 1 story by a long shot. But I don't think it was better than Rise of Iron, in the sense that it was. I think Gaul is a very interesting character and I love Gaul, but it also had like a lot of moments in Destiny 2 that very felt cartoonish. And I think this is where, like, because Destiny 2 was the shift away from that like gritty, like dark toned to a more comic, like, you know uh they stole our sun and the light is gone and now we are weak, but all suddenly we are the chosen one and we get our power back, and we just, and we have to go find our friends and reunite them to take back the last city and to fight Gaul. And all suddenly the traveler reawakens and bada bing bada boom, all is good, all is well again, and now there's new mysteries popping up and new abilities. It's cool, like, don't get me wrong, but it really felt like a step backwards narratively, because like it was basically like Collapse 2.0 in that sense, but this was more like focusing on the Guardians. And I feel like there could have been like a little bit more meat to it, but also like um not really going to get into the controversy behind it. Of course, people, there is the controversy that, oh, they possibly could have stolen the story, or the story is plagiarized, and I'm not going to get into that, but that's not, and I will say that's not affecting my opinion on Red War. But Red War, Destiny 2 Vanilla, Leviathan, all the strikes, I think it's a solid middle of the ground where it was good. Do I want to replay Red War? Kind of. I would replay it more so to help other people progress in the story and learn about the story, but I wouldn't play it just for the story and just for fun, because Red War had its cinematic moments and they were cool. They were very cool. But I don't know. I don't think it's as cool as like Oryx or fighting orcs and then going into a raid and defeating orcs, or the Rise of Iron, where the Siva, Siva was a mysterious threat, and we had to fight the undead Iron Lords that were perished at the hands of Siva. I don't know. I think if you described these three expansions, Red War would probably be like the least interesting out of these other two for someone to be curious about. Curse of Osiris. Now, this was a very, very low point, and the story was very short. It was mostly centered around Osiris, of course, hence Curse of Osiris. I like Osiris as a character. I love Sagira. Sagira was amazing, and I would definitely rank this high because of Sagira and because of Osiris. However, thinking about it right now, Curse didn't really bring us much story, did it? Curse really didn't progress much either. Curse was really just going into the Infinite Forest, finding Osiris, and bringing him back to the last city. I think that really was all Curse of Osiris was just saving Osiris from his own mess. Um, and like stopping the Vex doing something. I can't even remember. I want to put this in D, which is where most people would put this, but I'm probably going to put it in C and put it behind Vanilla Destiny in the sense that it was cool and I liked Curse of Osiris, but I feel like I know what deserves a D compared to a C. I don't know. I think because Sagira, because of Osiris, because Osiris is such I love Osiris. He's such a fun character. I want to put this here. And lore-wise, we got Brother Vance. Mercury was cool, but it was small. The Infinite Forest brought us a ton of lore, but I'm putting it in D. Yeah, no. I don't know. Tree of Probabilities. I'm also thinking about Tree of Probabilities lore-wise. It's cool. I don't think it's worthy. I don't know. I'm gonna put this in a high D. It would be a low C, high D. We're gonna leave it in a high D, just that way, because I feel like there's other expansions or other story pieces that might go there. Warmind is an A. I'm actually gonna put this above Rise of Iron. Warmind was amazing. Warmind was one of my favorite, like, just piece of story content ever. Anna is amazing. Clovis is amazing. Rasputin is amazing. I love Braytek and Rasputin and Anna as a character. Zol was amazing. Fighting Zol was epic. Like, I'm sorry if I had to choose between Rise of Iron or Warmind. Even though Warmind is just a side expansion and a small expansion, I'd rather play Warmind over and over again compared to Rise of Iron because Warmind was such a interesting time and just so cool. I loved Snowy Mars. I loved just the story, the strikes that it brought. I know the strike was just was just the story mission over again. Nokris was really cool. Um, Nokris brought a lot. It was Warmind was a special time, and the story and lore, like this is where I think Destiny's story started to also kind of expand beyond just being in game. Um, they had comic books and stuff out about um Destiny at this time. Like Destiny had comic books and like a lot more than just lore pages. This was also the time where I think they like started to turn away from like the Grimoire era and be more focused on lore pages in game. And they wanted to like make all the lore accessible in game and through a lot of content. I know that kind of started prior to that, but this was a time where I think the story of Destiny really caught the attention of a lot of people as well. Um, with that being said, we then move into Forsaken, which is another S tier, and I am actually going to put Forsaken above Taken King for story. And I know that's a bit crazy, but hear me out. I think Forsaken was a turning point in the story and for the lore, because I'm also, remember, I'm also judging this based off of the overall lore during this time, and this would also be where Riven, the Dreaming City, the Curse, um the, Mara Solve coming back, um the dungeon, like, so much story in Forsaken. Like, Forsaken was the story expansion where it had story upon story upon story. There was so much with this. And I remember going into Forsaken hyped because Warmind was so good, and then Forsaken was announced, and Forsaken's story, the Scorn was amazing. Aldrin was so cool, and then Aldrin coming back at the end. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Petra returning, Cade's death, like, what else? Mizrax. This was also when Mizrax returned too, which I think actually was in Black Armory. I could be wrong. I think it was Black Armory Mizrax returned. But it was close around there, yeah. Then we get Black Armory. And I am going to put Black Armory in low A behind Rise of Iron, but it's still an A. I think a lot of people love Black Armory. And I think lore and the story of Black Armory was good. I don't think Black Armory brought like a whole lot more than Red War. I'm not saying like, oh, it had more story, it had more content, therefore it's better. No, it brought interesting lore, interesting story, and I think Ada is a really cool character. It's a smaller scale, so take that into mind. Keep that in mind that I'm not ranking this because it brought a ton of content. I'm not saying more content's better. I know with Forsaken that might seem like the case, but when I'm ranking these like something like Black Armory, I'm also ranking it based off of the main focus of the season, and the story I think is phenomenal. It's exceptional because of just the forges was really cool. The Black Armory in itself, I will admit and say I don't remember much about Black Armory, partially because I think I was on a break when Black Armory came out. Same with season of the Joker, which is why I'm not really too sure where to put Joker beyond putting it in D, in low D behind Osiris, or just straight up an F. I'm going to say low D because I don't remember much about Joker. Now, I might put it higher than Curse because of the Dredgens. I think the Dredgens were very much front and center during this, so I will put that a little bit higher. Um, I know some people are gonna get mad at me for that. Again, I don't remember much that happened during Joker. Everything that occurred during Joker, other than like the Star Wars and the Dredgens, I think is forgotten. I don't remember much about Joker. And with that being said, I might actually lower Black Armory down to B and put that above Red War because I think A is giving it too much credit since I especially can't remember a lot from it. And because of that, I think I will put Opulence in low C because Opulence was a very good season for gameplay, and for story wise, it expanded a little bit more on Callus, and it had Galron, and it was good, and it was cool. But I don't remember much else from Opulence story wise. I don't think Opulence had like a huge story beyond bringing Callus back and introducing us to Galron. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that. If I'm misremembering, I apologize. This is just my opinion, what I'm going off the top of my head. If I want to do more research into possibly what else they brought, I could change this. And yes, I am taking the raids into account. Um, if I could just rank Spire of Stars, which I could do a raid, I might do a raid ranking in the future. Who knows? And a dungeon ranking. Um, I'm a bit biased about Spire since I love Spire a lot. Anyways, moving on. Shadowkeep. Shadowkeep pains me because I like Shadowkeep story wise, but I hate the like this the way like Shadowkeep was paced. I didn't really like the nightmares are cool. Oop. The nightmares are cool. Egregore is cool. But where do I want to put Shadowkeep? I don't like Garden. Garden's a bad raid. Garden doesn't have much story. I mean, it does, but I don't really care for it. I'm tired of the Black Garden. It's annoying. It was the first time we had to see a pyramid, though, in the darkness. This is gonna pain some people, but I'm actually gonna put this above the dark below in the sea. Because I think that story wise and lore wise, we had some really cool lore and story with Shadowkeep. I liked the nightmares. I liked that we had to explore the pyramid. It was the first time we got introduced to what like we got a face to the darkness in the sense that like we heard the darkness speak to us. The darkness spoke to us. It reached out to us. And we really get to see like the more interwoven paracausality of the darkness compared to just sore logic and just knowing it's present. We actually got to witness the darkness, the darkness in action. And because of that, I think I'm gonna definitely put Shadowkeep high in the sea, and definitely think it deserves a place over the Dark Below, because it at least brought us more story than Dark Below did. Dark Below was all about Crota. Shadowkeep was all about the darkness, and I think that was bigger, in my opinion, was bigger than Dark Below. Undying. I don't remember much about Undying, so Undying is gonna go bottom of Osiris D. I do remember a little bit about Undying. I liked Undying. We had to build a giant Vex portal to stop a Vex that was just infinitely reviving. Yeah, the Undying mine that kept just infinitely returning. So we had to like create a portal, go in, do all this other stuff. I really feel like Season of Undying just didn't make sense, really. It was like it was an introduction to seasons, and it was just a Vex distraction. Like the Vex are doing something freaky. Ooh, the Soul Divisive, which we know now is the Witnesses Vex. I think even back then we knew, because they were the Vex that worshiped the darkness and tried to make a miniature traveler, a miniature veil in the Black Garden. Um, I didn't really like Undying. I'm just gonna say that. I don't think Undying had much story. I don't think it had much lore. Compared to Shadowkeep, I definitely would. I remember Shadowkeep more than I remember Undying. And that's not just because Shadowkeep's still in the game. I haven't done Shadowkeep's story in forever, and I still remember more about Shadowkeep than I do from Undying. It's just saying. Oh, Dawn goes in. I'm going to say middle between Rise of Iron, a little bit towards Warmind, more towards Warmind, less towards Rise of Iron. I think it's an A because Saint is such an amazing character, and with Osiris they are amazing, and just the Corridors of Time. This was also when Trials came back, right? No, Trials was back before this, right? I don't remember. Why am I even thinking of Trials? Trials doesn't bring us much lore. I don't know why I'm thinking of. I mean, it does, but I just really like Dawn. I remember Dawn. Like this out of all the seasons, out of all of the seasons of Shadowkeep, the year of Shadowkeep, I think Dawn is the most memorable, because Dawn was the one where Saint was, we brought Saint back, and I think it was just a legendary moment. Just everyone kind of remembers Dawn the most, and there's got to be something else I'm like missing. Like, what else happened during Dawn that I'm like trying to think of that was like very big, very huge? I honestly do not remember. I really don't remember. I just feel like it's an A. I don't know why. Why is it above Rise of Iron? Saint 14. That's why. I don't know. There's probably some lore or something in there that justifies why it's an A and why it's better than Rise of Iron. I just don't remember. And if you're upset by that, shucks. Oh, worthy. Do I really want to make people mad? Because I think worthy story wise is really good because it was interesting that they were trying to crash a spaceship and the cinematics were amazing. But beyond that, what else did Worthy really bring us? I mean, we had to work with Rasputin again. We got some really cool technology. We had, you know, we got to like get some more Seraph like technology. It brought us like it kind of like hinted that the darkness was coming. I'm gonna put this here. Yeah. I'm gonna put that between Dark Below and Destiny 1 in C. Because I think it was good. It was good story wise, but it was bad mechanically. Like gameplay wise, it wasn't good, but there was good story to have with Worthy, and I think Worthy was an interesting story. I definitely think the story was better than Undying. And you know, if you want to argue why Undying should be higher, go for it. But this is just my opinion. I think Worthy, because it had Rasputin, should be a little bit higher, and because Anna was back, and because of just the cool cinematics, the cool events that happened. Yeah, honestly, I would put this in B if the gameplay was if like the gameplay was better. And I know I'm not rating this based off of gameplay, and I know saying that really doesn't make sense based off of the fact that I'm rating this lore wise. But when I say that, I also say like there really wasn't much else. Like the story didn't really incorporate into the gameplay that much beyond just being like if you blink you kind of miss it kind of story beats. And I think that's what I'm like trying to refer to as is like you don't really know that Worthy was all too rememberable because it was one of those blink and you miss it moments. And it had our first like event, didn't it? Like the Almighty crashing down, Rasputin shooting it out of the air was like one of the first events. Yeah, sick. Season of Arrivals. I think Arrivals has to be a low A because Arrivals was cool. It brought us like it basically just brought us a bunch of pyramids and it brought us the Whisper mission. Zol returns. Zol returns and Eris comes back. We get the seed of the traveler, which sounds weird now that I say that out loud, but I think Arrivals was good story wise and lore wise. I can't remember what else happened during Arrivals beyond this was a very big deal. In fact, thinking about it, I might move Arrivals down because I might put Beyond Light here. And I'm gonna pause for a second. We're gonna move on from Arrivals, and I'm just gonna say Arrivals is a high B because Arrivals introduced us to darkness. A and then Beyond Light low A because this brought us the darkness. We got to wield the darkness. Elsie returns. The stranger reveals herself, who she is. She's the sister of Anna Bray, Elsie Bray, the granddaughters of Clovis Bray. We got to meet Clovis Bray, a genius who shoved his head into his subconscious into an AI, into a giant robot, and recreation of him. We learn more about Banshee, and that Banshee's actually Clovis. Um, we got like the Deep Stone Crypt. We got um, uh, Dawn. As much as I love you, you are moving down here, and you're going to be right here. And this is going to be above Rise of Iron. I think I want to do that because I love Beyond Light a lot. I think Beyond Light's story was good. I like Aramis as a character. I like that there was a lot of villains, like a lot of characters in Beyond Light that had personality. Like characters, like enemies spoke to us, kind of like how the Scorn did. Again, it felt like another Forsaken situation where the enemies actually like interacted with us and actually were like communicating directly to us in the sense that they were cocky, they were, you know, fighting against us, and they actually had goals. They had a reason, good reason for fighting against us because we were attacking them, we were investigating them. They had the darkness and we were learning more about it, and we basically just went onto the doorstep and we basically were like, oh, we are guardians. We have the light. We're going to fight against your darkness using darkness. And we're going to learn how to wield it. And we're going to find out that light and dark, oh, Prophecy came out with this. Okay, yeah, okay. Prophecy came out. This goes back in low A. Yes, Prophecy did come out, and that also did reveal that. Yep, okay. I think this is where I'm gonna put those two. I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna shut up now because the more I keep talking about it, the more I'm just gonna keep moving stuff around. Hunt is low B. I think Hunt was pretty mid for the most part. I like Crow returning, and I think that was the highlight was Crow's return. But you know why I put this in low B and why I am so tempted to put this lower is because Sagira dying off screen really upsets me still, and the fact that Zivu Wrath literally just didn't exist. Like Zivu Wrath existed, but she didn't. Like Zivu was just kind of there, and like what also annoyed me more was the fact that like Zivu was being hyped up for so long, and we just never get to like it was just not very like okay. Let me put it this way: as a new player playing this game, or as someone who has returned to Destiny during this season and during Beyond Light, no one's gonna know who Zivu Araft is, nor did people gonna realize that the Wrathborn were of Zivu Araft's brood. No one's gonna realize or recognize that. And that is why I kind of just got a little bit like tilted, was because Zivu Araft just really didn't get like introduced properly. I feel like they could have like been like, oh yes, like, this is who Zivu Raf is. This is why she's attacking us. She's the sister of Oryx. And I feel like they could have like, we could have had a little bit more. And maybe we did. Maybe I just missed it because it's been so long. I want to put Chosen in S. Am I allowed to do this? I am going to put this in S as a low S because Chosen and Splicer both deserve low S. I'm going to put Splicer above Chosen. Oh man, how do I argue that these deserve S places? Just 2 words: foreign allies. And having foreign allies, the coalition is amazing. And I absolutely love the story between these two, especially the Elixni, Lakshmi being racist, thinking they're going to just be criminals and cause trouble and cause mischief, and people being divided on whether or not these should be our allies or not. The whole Cabal ceremonies and the Bell of Conquest, fighting against Kyle's champions. These 2 seasons are probably the most memorable seasons out of any of the seasons. Like if I could say Season of the Chosen, Season of the Splicer, people immediately know what I'm talking about. People immediately know what these seasons are about. These were the seasons that had the most clipped cutscenes and the most clipped dialogue, the most like dialogue that people remember, because these were good. These were solid moments, and these had story moments that impacted the universe forever. Like without these 2 seasons, Destiny would not be where it is. We wouldn't have defeated the Witness without these 2 seasons. Like, these were important seasons. And the stories that were brought with these were very, very good. Mithrax, Ido, and all these characters. No, Ido wasn't introduced yet. I'm getting that myself. Ido wasn't introduced yet. But actually, she was. She wasn't like fully introduced. She was in the lore, but she wasn't introduced yet. And Keitel standing up for Commander Zavala, and Crow, and like revealing that's Aldrin, and Zavala forgiving him and giving him a second chance. It's also good. Lost. This is where Savathun revealed herself, and I'm going to put this in high A, above Warmind, because this is where Savathun reveals herself. This is where we have to go rescue Mara's Techians. What else happened during Lost? Actually, you know what, I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna put this below Warmind, below Beyond Light. I'm gonna put this down here, low A. We're gonna do low A. Because I think the Savathun story was good. I think learning more about Savathun, being introduced to Savathun, having Mara like discover more about Savathun, and then in the end having, Savathun die, which I don't think was revealed to Witch Queen, was it not? I don't think it was. Yeah, so Seasons of the Lost is where Mara returns to the story. Mara discovers that Aldrin's alive still, after being killed, and they kind of rediscover each other, and Mara's like, oh, is this Savathun? And Savathun was tricking Crow the whole time. I think this is very solid, and I kind of want to put this, I don't really know where to put this other than just an A somewhere, so I'm just going to say it's a low A, because I still think Prophecy kind of beats that, because Prophecy brought so much to the table. And Lost was like very good and very important story wise, and honestly I would say it's a very memorable, I wouldn't say it's as memorable as these two, other than being the prologue to Witch Queen, which I think was amazing. 30th anniversary. How much story did this bring? It brought Grasp. I don't think it really brought much else, so I'm gonna say it goes in the F, because it didn't really bring us much story. Nor was there like a whole lot of lore beyond like the pirates. I'll give it a low D. In fact, I'll make it higher than Undying, just because I just want to like say screw Undying just one more time, because I don't remember jack from Undying. Witch Queen is an S, but where in S do I want to put this? Above Taken. Okay. Witch Queen goes max S. I think Witch Queen goes above Forsaken. I think it goes above Taken King. It definitely goes above the 2 seasons, because I don't think no season is going to be an expansion, story-wise. I'm sorry. That's just clear. I think Witch Queen deserves the top spot, because I think Witch Queen was a time where the story was at its peak. This was peak story. I think this is where they really like defined how to tell a story. I think compared to Forsaken and Taken King, the story was amazing, and we can still play Witch Queen too. So you can revisit the story, and if I had to choose between replaying Forsaken or replaying Witch Queen, I'd rather replay Witch Queen, because Witch Queen is a more interesting story. I love Finch. I love the Light-Bearing Hive. They were fun to fight against. There was a lot of cinematics. We learned so much about light and darkness. We got to see the Witness for the first time, I believe. Yeah, this was the first time we also got to see the Witness. Like, Witch Queen brought us a lot. And Rolk. Dude, don't even get me started in Rolk and his lore and story. Witch Queen's S. Sorry, guys. Risen is gonna be... Should Risen be higher than Lost? Okay. So we're moving Lost to high B. Risen gonna be low A, because Risen had the whole like Crow and the Scion arc, and Saladin giving himself up for Crow to be a part of Keitel's legionaries, training them. Yeah, I think that's gotta be low A because of that. Risen was an interesting time. It was also the time where we like we're learning more about Savathun and like just the Lucent Brood in general. It was an interesting time. I remember Risen really well too. Risen also like had just some of the coolest aesthetics. But lore wise, I think Risen was also just one of the cooler ones. Um Haunted is another S. I'm just gonna say that. Haunting is a low is probably gonna be the lowest S on this list. It is definitely the lowest S. Because Haunted was so good. Haunted was literally a season just pure story. It was just pure story, pure lore. Like Callus being present. We had Gaul return. We had Sophia like come. We in the form of nightmares and like Gaul in the nightmares. And then we also had Mar like Aldrin fighting against Aldrin. It was such an interesting and unique story. And I think this was like jam-packed lore. And then duality being also a part of this. I definitely think Haunted was one of my favorite seasons. Definitely. Haunted was just a time where like there was just so much story, so much lore to go off on. And I think it was a really good time to be a lore person because there was a lot there. There was a lot of character development. I like character development. I like learning more about our characters. It was cool. Plundered. This is where we got Ido. I really like Ido. I really like Plundered. I think Plundered has a really solid season. It was a really solid season. I know a lot of people don't like Plundered. I know a lot of people that hate Plundered. But I'm gonna put Plundered below Hunt, story wise, below B. Because I think it had some interesting story. Because we learned about Nezarect. We learned that Nezarect was like the person who caused the collapse. Yeah, we learned a lot about the darkness during Plundered. Like people don't remember, but like Plundered was a huge time for lore and for story. So we learned about the collapse through Plundered like greatly. So I'm actually gonna put this higher. Um yeah, I definitely think that Plundered was important. And I think it brought a lot of cool lore. And you know what? Plundered's going high B. You know what? Just because of the whole Nezarite collapse thing, Ido being present, Spider returning, Plundered was really good story wise. I liked Plundered. Plundered was cool. I think Plundered definitely deserves that spot, especially since we got to work with so many cool allies during that time. It was like the second time we got to like work with the Elixni as well. So like between Risen and Plundered, it was really cool. I think Risen definitely deserves to be higher than Plundered story wise because Risen is basically just an extension of Witch Queen. But yeah. Oh man, where does Seraph go? Seraph goes an S. Well, where an S? Above the others? Yes. Rasputin, man. Oh, Seraph was like in a mini expansion, I feel like. Seraph felt like an expansion. It really did. Seraph deserves an S slot, for sure. And I think Seraph is ultimately one of my favorites when it comes to seasons. I think next to Haunted, Chosen, Spicer, it's up there. I think it's definitely up there. I think it's definitely like if I could if like the top five, these are my top five seasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, right here already. We'll get to like the other seasons soon. Another thing might join it. Who knows? I definitely think Seraph with Rasputin, with Anna, with Elsie, with Aramis coming back, um the witness, like the destruction of the traveler. We get to learn more about what Rasputin was meant for with Clovis. Dude, this was a packed season of story. I honestly loved Seraph. I want to replay Seraph's story so bad. I want to see Seraph's cutscenes once again. Seraph was so beautiful, it was so cinematic, and it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. It was a moment where we had like no idea what was going to happen next. We didn't know what was going on. The traveler just left. Like this was a big moment. This was a big season, and I definitely think it deserves a middle S for sure. Like in between all of these because it was a good moment. It was definitely one of the best seasons we've ever got story wise. And yeah, I think it's deserving to be S. Lightfall! Man, where do I put Lightfall? I know a lot of people are like, F, but I'm actually going to put Lightfall above Shadowkeep. Yeah, let's put Lightfall above Shadowkeep because I think it was better than Shadowkeep. I think it was worse than Red War, but I definitely think Lightfall had story. It wasn't like there was no story. It had story. People just didn't pay attention. The Veil wasn't explained well, but it was explained. It had meat. Strand was cool. Strand explained a lot. Neomuna was sick. I loved Neomuna and the lore behind Neomuna. The Shadow Legion, Callus was amazing. I loved Callus' performance. I think they could have done more with Callus. Fighting Nezarec was cool. I hate Ron. Ron is one of the worst raids in my opinion, but having Nezarec be present was cool. I think Nezarec is a cool villain, but they should have cooked him more. I think he needs more time to cook. I think Nezarec should come back. But yeah, I didn't hate Lightfall. I think Lightfall's mid. That's basically it. I don't think Lightfall deserves to be bottom of the barrel. If I had to like choose one to get rid of, Shadowkeep can just fall off, Lightfall can stay. Because yeah, I would definitely place Lightfall over that. I would definitely choose to do any of these other like stories over Lightfall story any day. But yeah. Actually, like thinking about it, should Lost be up here or should Lost be here? No, Lost can stay. Lost can stay for now. I don't know why I'm like so like teeter-tottering and Lost. Lost is just one of those times where it's like I don't really know. Defiance. Oh man, if you have watched my streams or if you know me, and most of you probably don't, I do not like Defiance. And the reason why is because of how they killed off Holiday. And I think Defiance was also that time where it just didn't make sense for the witness to take prisoners. Why was he taking prisoners? What was the point of taking prisoners? I think Defiance had some cool moments. And aesthetically it was cool. And I think, you know, oh yeah, the shadow, like they're invading Earth, all this stuff. But if he was just going to enact the final shape, why is he taking prisoners of humans? Was this like a distraction? I think it was a distraction, was it not? It might have been like a distraction thing. I don't remember why they were taking prisoners. What was the point of that? Like they invaded Earth and they were taking prisoners, but they were just gonna do enact the final shape anyways, and they failed. And it's like Defiance is just weird to me. I'm gonna put Defiance in like here because Defiance was Holiday's death wasn't as like I called it. Like I literally called that Holiday was gonna die. Like I literally said it. And I was like, it felt like this was like a send off to Holiday, and it just didn't make sense. And it was just stupid. And Holiday's dead. Why is Holiday dead? What was the point of killing off Holiday? What did that accomplish? Just to make Zavala feel more despair? Like you could have done that in so many other ways. I feel like Defiance just didn't make sense to me. Season of the Deep. I want to put Deep here. It's an A, but I don't know where in A I want to put it. We're going to leave it here. I loved Season of the Deep. Season of the Deep, story and lore-wise, was amazing. And I think this brought us this basically, like, was the story for Lightfall in a sense. Like, the story that Lightfall was missing was, like, put in the Deep. And I think it should have been a part of, like, Lightfall to begin with. And that is why I think Deep deserves a higher place than Lightfall and why Deep is so high up here. But I think Deep also still had a lot more questions and answers in a lot of ways as well. I also think a lot of people just didn't pay attention through the season of Deep. And I think Deep was boring for a lot of lore nerds anyways. Deep was very boring for lore and for story, but it had a lot to it still. This is where we get to learn more about the Veil as well. And like Akka was a cool character. I love Akka, and I love Sloane returning with her taken form and all this stuff. This was the first time I think we embraced being taken too. Yeah, that was pretty sick. Oh, season of the witch. Witch. This kind of is gonna go below, no, above deep. I think this deserves above deep. I think this deserves. I'm gonna put this here because I think Witch was a good season story wise. I liked it. I know a lot of people didn't. I liked the story of Season of the Witch. This is where like Eris became a goddess, and we basically like tithed to her and all this other stuff. She basically just like Amaru was present. Like Amaru was a sick character to have just chilling with us, bro. Amaru is an amazing character. He was just chilling with us. And then Eris just slices like Savathun's throat. Like this was a cool season story wise and lore wise, and there was a lot of other lore and story that went on during this. I'm forgetting a lot of dungeons and raids, but nah, like this deserves to be up there. I don't think it's better. I don't think it's top 5, but I think it definitely deserves up there. In fact, if we were gonna argue that it deserves top 5, I would honestly put this as number 5 because yeah, that would be amazing. I think Beyond Light definitely beats it. I think it definitely is better than Rise of Iron because I think the story is more interesting than what Rise of Iron was, but I think this definitely progressed a lot in the story. I think this is also where Eris and Drifter like really delve deep into their relationship as well. I know we'll get more on that in the Heresy, but I think this was the first time like this was like confirmed that they were like a couple as well. Yeah, so I know a lot of people don't care about that, but I do. I think it was very sweet. I think it's very cool. Season of the Wish. I think I do not like Awoken seasons. I've said this before. I think Awoken seasons were my least favorite. That being said, I think Wish was a solid season. I love the Ahamkara, but I absolutely hate the Ahamkara at the same time because they are always like we just don't really get to interact much with them, and we really like. I think this was the season we learned the most about Ahamkara, and we had to like experience like the actual like abilities the Ahamkara have. I want to put this in A, but I actually kind of want to put this in B, and I'm probably going to put this here because as much as I like Wish, I love Riven, and we get to like have Riven around. Wish was a time where it was like right before the final shape. I feel like Wish didn't really do much beyond just like say, "Hey, Riven's here. Here's the Ahamkara, by the way," and Riven had a mate and go rescue Riven's children. And I love Season of the Wish. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but story wise, I don't really want to go back to it because it just didn't really like. It's done. I don't want to go back to it. I don't want to replay Season of the Wish ever again. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if I had to, but I would prefer not to. I would prefer to do any of this other stories before Wish. Same with Plundered. I think I feel the same with Plundered. I don't want to do Plundered story again. The T thing was annoying. I hated the T thing, by the way. I know a lot of people were too. Into the Light gets a D. I'll put it here. Not much story comes with it. Into the Light was the prelude to Final Shape. With that being said, Final Shape gets here. I think Final Shape was a really solid end off to the story, but I think Final Shape was just lacking. I'm not a huge Final Shape fan. I know that's surprising, but I didn't really like the Final Shape. Like I like it. I love Final Shape. But I don't really think the Final Shape was my favorite. I think Witch Queen was still my favorite. I think Final Shape definitely was a very solid story expansion. I love The Witness. I love how Final Shape ended. But I also just didn't really care much about the story coming out of the Final Shape, and I think I took a good break from it as well. Because like the final shape was one that like I just didn't care for the Pale Heart too much. The Pale Heart was cool at first, but after going back in and learning like doing the Pale Heart stories and like all this other stuff, I think the best parts about the final shape were the parts that weren't about the final shape. Like Luzaku was cool, but that had nothing to do with the final shape. Like it had nothing to do with the Witness. Luzaku was cool. Dual Destiny was cool, but had nothing to do with the Witness. I think all the cool parts about the final shape had nothing to do with the Witness, which is kind of funny because I think final shape is fun. Cade had nothing to do with the Witness, and it's like, oh man, I do like final shape. I would replay final shape. I think final shape is amazing. I definitely think Taken King, Forsaken, and Witch Queen beat final shape for sure. Echoes. I know people don't like Maya. I like Maya. I think Maya is a good villain. I know some people don't. I know people don't like Maya's personality. I think people are upset that we didn't shoot Maya at the end of Echoes. I think this is definitely a low C then. Like the lowest of C's. Because it's still a good episode. I still would love to replay Echoes, and I think Echoes has really cool like I think introducing the conductor and like just the whole Maya Thunder Rush thing is really cool. But until we get Maya and Clovis bickering against each other or like talking to each other, I ain't like just I need the conductor and I need like the savior to speak to each other because what the heck, man. Revenant gets a B. Where in B? I would probably say here because Revenant was good. More than Lost, lower than Lost. We'll put it here. I think it's definitely a higher B. I love Revenant. Revenant was so much better than Echoes. Revenant was so cool. Revenant was a fun time. Revenant was fun. Um, Revenant story was cool. I like Fickrel. I like the vampirism stuff. I hated that the helm just got rammed in and we didn't really get to see much of the aftermath or had like anything else revolving around the helm being rammed into. But I think the cinematics were cool. I loved Ido. I loved Mizrax. I loved the Nezarec side plot. I love that we gave Aramis the Echo of Control and the Echo of Creation. What was the Echo called again? Maybe that's why I'm putting it in B because I don't remember what Echo it was. Um, yeah, I think it was a cool episode. I think it was my favorite episode out of the three for sure. Revenant was a fun time. Unlike Heresy, where I like Heresy. Heresy was the prelude into Edge of Fate. Vesper's Host. What else? Was Vesper's Host Revenant or? Okay. Since Vesper's Host was in Revenant and not in Heresy, this is definitely gonna go below Revenant because I like Heresy. I don't want to ever replay Heresy. I got bored out of my mind playing Heresy, and the story of Heresy. As much as I like Oryx and the Echo of Navigation, the Navigator, Heresy was just not it for me. I didn't like Heresy. I thought Heresy was really boring. I thought it was cool at first, but then after a while, it just kind of got boring. Um, yeah, I just didn't really care much for the story. I think Eris and Drifter were my favorite parts of it, to be fair. Story wise, that was pretty much it. Like, it was very simple. Of just, I think the coolest parts were the parts that were going into the Fate saga, like the Lord of Every Nothing and the Dread and all that stuff that were like kind of the side plot of Heresy. Because the main focus in Heresy was the Echo Navigation, and you had the Dread and the Lord of Every Nothing going after it, and we didn't really know much about it. But all of that was like Edge of Fate stuff that we had yet to kind of like, or like the Fate saga stuff that had yet come into play. And a lot of that, like, we now know more about the Lord of Every Nothing. But yeah, no, this was like kind of just the prelude for the Fate Saga. It was kind of like just bringing us to Dreadnought and like finishing up like Oryx, Savathun, and Zivu's story. And I think Zivu was the coolest part like of it. I love seeing Zivu. I love the whole Zivu stuff. Should I put Heresy higher? I'll put Heresy higher. I'll put it here because I think it deserves it. Just yeah, I still think Vespers would. I still think Vespers was like a really good dungeon and deserves better. And is the main reason why I would argue that Revenant and Heresy could be like tied in that regards. The issue is that I also think Wish is like still in between these two. Edge of Fate. I want to put Edge of Fate. I love Edge of Fate. I really like it. I want to put Edge of Fate above all of these. I want to say this is the highest A. Yeah, so I want to say Edge of Fate is the highest of A's for story-wise because Edge of Fate was a really good story. Lodi is a really good character. The Archon of the House of Exiles is a good, like, the House of Exiles just coming back is really funny. The Conductor, the Oopsie with 3, learning more about the 9, the introduction of the 9. I think it's a very solid expansion. I think it's one of my favorite expansions of all time. That being said, I think the Edge of Fate is also one of the most annoying expansions ever. And it's one of the most just like boring. It's so long. It's such a long expansion that I think it gets boring, dude. I played it so many times, and as much as I love this expansion, I don't want to replay it. Not just for the story. Like you would have to do more than make me replay it because I played it so many times. Do I think maybe in the future it might get an S? Maybe, but for now I'm keeping it A because I think that's where it should be. Ash and I are gonna go F. Yeah, you're lowest of F. I don't really want to hear it. Ash and Iron, like, beyond the Heliostat mission, Heliostat would gives this better than Undying. But no, like, other than that, Ash and Iron brought nothing. Renegades. This is where we are presently. Where should I put Renegades? I know some people are going to be very upset by this. I know some people are going to hate me for this. And I know some people are very confused about what I'm about to do right now. But Renegades is a 3S. Top 3 expansions right here. Right here are my top 3 expansions for story-wise. Witch Queen, Forsaken, Renegades. Boom. That's my top 3. And you're probably wondering, like, why? I love Renegades. I love Bale. I love the Praxic Order. I love the Dredgens. The Imperium is probably the weakest part for me. I don't like Loom too much. I think Loom and the Imperium is kind of all right. But I do think it's interesting, like the Barons and the Scions are finally like having this discourse again, and we're getting to learn more about it. The Syndicates were pretty meh. Didn't really care about the Syndicates story-wise. But Ido, the Drifter, I think for being a Star Wars inspired expansion, it was very good. I think for a Destiny expansion, the story was phenomenal. There was so much cinematics. There was so much story. There's still more story to be had. Oh, Renegades is one of my top favorites expansions, and I will forever cherish Renegades, and I will always come back and play Renegades again, like the story of Renegades again, because I like Renegades a lot. And I think Renegades, story-wise, is one of my favorites, for sure. I still think Witch Queen was a period of time that you cannot recreate, but I definitely think Renegades is close to it. And I definitely would, in the future, this will definitely probably move up. Like, I would probably start putting Forsaken lower because I am not a Forsaken fanboy. The only reason why I'm putting Forsaken here is not just because of the main story, but because of a lot of the events occurring around Forsaken. And just everything else to do with Forsaken, like the Dreaming City, Riven, all this other stuff. The moment that, like, say like the Alchemist or Shattered Cycle, okay, I'm just gonna tell you now, Shattered Cycle probably will be an S for me if Old Chicago is peak. If Old Chicago is peak, Shattered Cycle is replacing Forsaken. Like, I'm just telling you now, Renegade is moving up, Shattered Cycle is moving up there. Just like, I'm, especially if the conductor dies, and we learn more about the Vex that way as well, and we learn just more about the DOJ and just, oh, or not the DOJ, DOE, yeah, DOE, my bad, DOE. There's a lot, but yeah, this is my rankings, S through F. This is just my opinions, of course. This is just the story that I enjoyed, the lore that I enjoyed, the narrative being told. A lot of this is mostly about the main story, not necessarily like side plots. Though, you know, some of that was taken into account. Like, of course, Vespers is like, if I really have, if Vespers wasn't a part of Revenant, this definitely would be lower. But I think Vespers does increase this, and I also think that a lot of like just character influence as well, like the characters taking place in it. With that being said, I think I have a fair spread of expansions. I don't think I'm like really biased towards like any one more than the other, because you could say like I hate the Vex expansions the most, but you know, then I have like, you know, Warmind up here. Well, Warmind was the Vex expansion. I don't think, was it? No, I mean, the Vex weren't the main. I mean, Vex, Elixir, you know, I guess. So maybe I don't like the Vex. I don't know. But then again, I can't really say, is the Vex only have had one major expansion, and that was Destiny 1. Was the only time I think the Vex were like the main characters ever. That and Undying. Oh yeah, Osiris. I think all of Destiny's weakest expansions narratively have been with the Vex, honestly. They should just keep doing like the Hive, because they seem to be really good with the Hive, with like newer races. Um Always are peak. The Cabal are another like really good ones as well. Um yeah, this is my ranking. Anyways, thank you guys for watching and listening to me ramble. Um, Let me know what you guys' opinions are in the comments below. Um, of course, this could always change, and I'm hoping it will change. And maybe in the future, I might do some more tier lists, maybe on raids, dungeons, I don't know, exotics, class items. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, guys.